Out to the stage. Here's a little bio in case you don't know her. Rebecca Ye is the 20-year-old daughter of Tim and Kathy Ye and a native of Nisswa. Rebecca was crowned Miss Minnesota in June of last year, and she is a 2011 grad of Brainerd High School. Yay! So proud of her. We all are, Rebecca. Rebecca recently completed her sophomore year at Ohio Northern University near Toledo, where she's pursuing a career as a clinical pharmacist. She was accepted into the highly selective Doctorate of Pharmacy program, and appearing on the Dean's List for the past 2 semesters, she is a AAA scholar recipient, academics, arts, and athletics, and as we all probably know, a very accomplished violinist. So I want to introduce Rebecca Ye.
Wait for her to nod to you.
Thank you so much for having me tonight. It's great to be back home and to be in my community that I love so much. And so I want to start off first by performing a piece for you, and I'm going to say a few words after that to tell you how much you really do mean to me and how much of an impact this community has made all my life so far. And then I'll conclude with one more song. So the first piece I'm going to perform for you is called Banjo and Fiddle, and it's composed by William Kroll. Sometimes with the humidity, my pegs like to slip, so gotta do a little tuning here. tonight? Well, here with me tonight, I brought an old friend of mine. This is a violin that I started playing when I was 4 years old. And this is the first song I played. I tried playing the banjo and fiddle on it. It doesn't work quite as well anymore. But I wanted to bring this violin tonight to show you that this is where it all began for me. It was on this little violin that I began my journey as a violinist, and it carried me into different areas of my life that I never expected to ever go to. I started violin at the age of 4, and both my parents weren't very musical. They didn't play an instrument growing up. I don't mean that as a bad thing. They sing, but that's about it. But I started taking lessons after my older brother started playing, and I took lessons from a girl named Kelly. And Kelly was a high school student at the time. She was in the high school orchestra at Brainerd High School. And at that time, the orchestra program was about 8 years old. And so I caught on to the violin fairly quickly, and I fell in love with it. And 3 years later, I was asked by Grant Wilcox, who was director of the Brainerd High School Orchestra, if I wanted to join the chamber orchestra, which is the upper level orchestra at the high school, and I said yes. And so here I am, a second grader, starting my day off at the high school in the morning. So my mom would drop me off at school, and this was the high school, and I would scurry as quickly as I could to the orchestra room, which was like my safe haven because I knew everyone there. And all the older high schoolers really scared me. And so as quickly as I could, I would get out of the car and make my way as quickly as I could to that room. And that's where orchestra would take place for me in the morning. And then after orchestra, I would get picked up by a small little school bus all by myself, and that school bus would bring me back to Lowell Elementary where I was a student. Well, from there, the orchestra room became like my second home. So I would eat there sometimes, I would study, I would practice, take lessons, I'd goof around. Sometimes I'd make forts out of like the chairs that were set up in the orchestra room, and pluck the strings on the basses, which I'm sure Grant really appreciated. And so for me, that was a really special place in my childhood. But at the time, I didn't realize that those opportunities that I had at that age were teaching me more than how to play the violin. One thing I can say now is that I learned what commitment looked like. If you look at this violin up close, you'll see that there are tear stains, and those aren't tears of joy. Those are definitely tears when I was frustrated, when I didn't want to continue practicing, when I wanted to throw this thing through a wood chipper and didn't. So I realized what it meant to persevere and to be dedicated to something that you love, even though you don't love it all the time. I also learned about goal setting. As a second grader, I didn't even know what I was going to eat for lunch, let alone what I was going to do the next day, the next week, the next month, in a few years. But I learned that if I wanted to achieve goals, I had to set them and then work backwards and learn how to get there from where I was at. Another thing I learned was stage presence, and I have a funny story to tell you. The high school orchestra would visit all the elementary schools during the Christmas season, and I was a kindergartner at the time at Whittier. And so the orchestra came, and since I was a student of one of the high school students in the orchestra, I was invited to play along with them. And so here I am, this little, I don't know how tall I was a little peanut, and I had my violin with me, and my incentive for going up there was if I performed well with the orchestra, my mom and dad were gonna get me Dorothy's red slippers. And I really wanted Dorothy's red slippers because they were sparkly and red, and I loved them. So anyways, I get up there and I start bawling my eyes out as soon as we start Jingle Bells. And I think that was a lesson of humility both for myself and my parents. So I ended up redeeming myself though. I went to the next school that they toured. I think it was either Harrison or Garfield, and ended up performing with them. And so I learned, that was my first lesson in stage presence, and I failed at it miserably the first time. And the last thing I learned, of course, was humility from learning from those who were better than me at the time. As a second grader, I, of course, didn't have the technical ability at playing the violin that a senior in high school did. And so I was able to learn from those who knew more than I did. But but I can say confidently that the orchestra program here in Brainerd is one of the best in the state, if not in the country. And I often ask myself why that was when I was in the program, because I did see a big difference between our orchestra and a lot of the different orchestras throughout the state. And so I had to look back at the history of the orchestra program here in Brainerd, and it actually started back in 1980 when Grant Wilcox moved to town and started the string program. It wouldn't have even happened without the help of Dutch and Irma Cragun, who provided instruments and lessons for students who were just starting out, as well as the community support that helped bring that string program together. And in 1989, the orchestra program at the high school eventually began, and that's where everything started, and that's the reason I was able to take lessons from Kelly. So what I saw was how much the community has supported programs that they believe in. And I think that's so incredibly important. So I actually spent 10 years in the high school orchestra. So 2nd grade through 12th grade, I was able to see students come in to the program, the orchestra program, and leave. Because many of them entered as high schoolers and left as seniors. And it was like watching people change and improve their skills, not only with the violin or whatever instrument they're playing, but improve in a lot of different areas of life. And I thought that was really cool to see growing up. I finally made it to high school eventually. After all those years of being in elementary school and middle school, I finally made it to the high school where I was the same age as everyone else in the orchestra. And I realized at that time that the commitment that the community had made to orchestra was the same kind of commitment they made to other areas of life in the academics, athletics. I was a cross-country runner, and also in activities. And I began to see that Brainerd Public Schools really do stand out. They really are different. And I asked myself the same question. What makes Brainerd Public Schools what they are? And I left my senior year as an all-state academic cross-country athlete, a AAA scholarship recipient, concertmaster of the Minnesota All-State Orchestra, and prize winner in many different violin competitions, and also an AP Scholar with honors. And I don't want to say that to toot my own horn. The reason I want to say that is because coming from the person who has achieved all that, I couldn't have done that without this community. I couldn't have done any of it. The orchestra program was something I couldn't have come up on my own. I wouldn't have even started if it hadn't been here. Academically, if I hadn't been offered the courses and the classes, that wouldn't have happened. Cross country, if that sport wasn't there, I would probably be not a runner. I don't know. I don't know what I'd be doing if I wasn't in cross country. It's really taught me a lot about endurance and just persistence. And so without this community, all those things weren't possible for me. So I asked myself again, what makes Brainerd Public Schools different? And here's the answer I come up with, is that our community is willing to invest in the programs that we know will change lives, will really enhance our unique abilities, and most importantly, prepare us for what's ahead and prepare us to reach our dreams, whatever they may be, because they're going to be different for everyone. In closing, I think back to 16 years ago when I picked up this little violin for the first time. And little did I know that it was the beginning of a great journey that's still not over yet. It's taken me all the way to the Miss America stage and back again to the community that I call my family, my support, and my home. So I'm so grateful for your support. Thank you. I'm going to close with one song. This is a fun one. I won't say the title of it, but you'll figure it out soon enough. So I'll leave you with that.
Wasn't she awesome? We can see why that last one might have been a little tricky there, Rebecca. Nice job. Great to have you here. Let's give her another round of applause. We're so proud of her, aren't we? So cute. Alrighty, we are going to talk now about the 4A grants.